The Five on Fox News did a segment about Brittany Maynard. We've spoken about her quite a bit recently. She, of course, is the 29-year-old woman with terminal brain cancer, and she moved from, I think it was California to Oregon because Oregon has a right to die with dignity law. So the cast spoke about this, and they said some shocking things.
It's very difficult, and I feel for any family that goes through it. This is her decision. This is her choice. I would never even put myself in her position to pass a judgment as to what she should do. I think she's expressing a feeling that she believes in, obviously, the sanctity of life, while at the same time understanding that she has a terminal diagnosis. It's tough. The only thing they say to you with a terminal diagnosis is palliative care, which is we will try and make you comfortable.
It puts the doctor in a difficult position, Bob, but also this issue on assisted suicide was a huge public policy issue for a long time. And then it sort of went away for a while, but now it's making its way back, and Oregon is one of the states. They actually, in fact, moved to Oregon in order to be able to do this legally under the law.
Well, I have two people that I knew, both of whom had inoperable liver disease from drinking. One decided to take their life and said so, and in fact she did. The other one got near the end, decided not to do it, and kept going and suffered a terrible death. But, I think when a situation like this, I think people have every right in the world to decide whether they want to go to their maker or not.
Okay. Eric, any thoughts?
Very quickly,
about a minute.
As Kimberly, I lost a mother, a father, and a sister to cancer. I watched that struggle, and if anyone had ever said along the road that they wanted to have an assisted suicide, I would have been on board. These people did, as you point out, move from California to Oregon, where it's legal, and I like the fact that the states, when they make their decision, by the way, anyone can't just commit suicide. There has to be certain things that fall into place. So I'm for her having the right to do this if she wants.
They go on, and every single member of the cast says they're totally in favor of her doing that. So for the first time in Secular Talk history, and maybe the first time ever, I'll say, Fox News is 100% right. They're all for physician-assisted suicide. That was out of nowhere. I certainly expected at least half of them to be like, no, because God, no, because something, sanctity of life, no, because death is bad, and blah, yada, yada. Didn't do it. They couldn't do it. So stop and think about the policy that we have right now implemented in the overwhelming majority of the states. I think it's either 3 or 4 states right now that allow physician-assisted suicide, and maybe some small like cities or tiny areas as well that you add on top of that. But our policy is something that nobody believes and nobody argues for. Have you ever come across somebody who would sit down and have a logical discussion and an argument with you about this, that they debate you and say, I'll take the position that this person should not be able to choose and I should make them suffer? I've never seen it. I've never heard it. And even when you look at the polling on this, the polling is overwhelmingly on our side. I think it's over 60% on our side. It depends on how you word it, but even when you word it in the worst way for our side, we still come out with a majority saying, yeah, allow people to make their own decisions. So in the end, what we're doing is we're letting religious zealots, nuts and fundamentalists, they make the decisions along with emotional family members, and that overrides the individual. So the state is getting involved when it really is an individual decision. I mean, can you think of anything that is more of a fundamental freedom? You choosing what to do with your own life, literally? And I can imagine, I love life. I love so many aspects of it. I'm a happy guy, but I can imagine many, many scenarios where something would happen and I would want to end my life. I mean, if I had a terminal illness and I'm in a tremendous amount of pain, I don't want to hang around and feel pain and have the state force me to do X, Y, or Z. I want to have my own life in my hands. And just like what Brittany Maynard said, she's like, well, this way I get to choose when I go, prevent the worst of it because supposedly it's very painful in late stages of terminal brain cancer. but also I can go with my family around me, and I could say goodbye, I could kiss them, I could tell them I love them, she actually said I could have music I like in the background, and I could quietly go off into the abyss. And it's a situation where it doesn't even hurt. In fact, you're taking somebody out of their misery. There are ways for people to die, whether it's a lethal dose of morphine or something else, where you just flat out feel like you're going to sleep and you never wake up. So there are so many situations I can imagine, so many situations other people can imagine, where they'd say, enough, I'm checking out. I love you guys. It was a great run. I hope I'll be remembered, but I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. But in the United States of America today, and I think in most places in the world today, we have a system and we have a policy that makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. It's one of those things that we're operating off of momentum. Previous generations with bad ideas that had goofy feelings about, well, humans are so special that we maybe have a chance that we could live forever if we just fight and overcome it, and then we can go on and live 3,000 years. And it's these ideas that lead to the bad policy, and the bad policy affects us today when we have stuff like science. I mean, we treat our pets better than we treat people. Have you ever gone to the vet and you have a pet and the pet's super old, they have cancer or whatever, and then they say, yeah, the kind thing to do is to put them to sleep. You don't want them living in torture every single day. But when it's a human being, we're like, no, they could live in torture. That's fine. And of course, I'm not advocating for other people to make the decision for the person, but them make their own decision. Just like how I think having the right to put in your body whatever you want to put in your body as long as you're not hurting anybody else, just like that's a fundamental right, and that's the cornerstone of freedom. It's the same thing for physician-assisted suicide. Choosing when to go, controlling your own life, being rational about it. I'm fine if there's some sort of regulations in place and some sort of process you have to go through before you get the okay and the full approval, but it should be there for sure, and we don't have that system, and I think it's a gross injustice that we don't.